1 марта станция Луна-10 с помощью космической ракеты была выведена на околоземную орбиту. По команде с Земли станция перешла на траекторию полета к Луне. В течение полета была произведена коррекция траектории и ориентация положения станции относительно Луны. Новая команда, включена двигательная установка, и станция переводится на орбиту искусственного спутника Луны. Сейчас прозвучит переданная станцией Луна-10 мелодия партийного гимна «Интернационал».
So hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. So today we're going to discuss about Luna-10 mission. So what's so special about Luna-10? Because Luna-10 is the first orbiter around the moon. Of course, before Luna-10, Luna-9 was one of the first landers to soft land on moon. But Luna-10 is considered as the first artificial satellite around the moon. And so here we can see this is how the Luna-10 probe looks like. And this is the carrier stage. So this carrier stage along with the orbiter forms the entire forms a single block. And so this is the fuel duct, so the fuel tank, and this underneath is the propulsion system. So this with this carrier stage, it does mid course corrections to lunar insertion and to make a stable orbit around the moon. And one of the most peculiar thing of this space probe is that it played when it reached a stable orbit around the moon. In the previous video clip I have showed, there's a music. It also played a music it's a revolutionary music called International, and this is the orbiter together with the carrier stage. And so this is the single block that I mentioned, and this is the entire Luna-10 module, in which here we have the orbiter at the top and the carrier stage at the bottom, connected by a coupler, by decoupler, and that's it. So this propulsion module helps in lunar orbital insertion and also the mid-course correction. And so after that, when the lunar probe attains a stable orbit around the moon, the orbiter gets separated from this carrier stage and then plays the international song. And it was played during 23rd Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. And after that, it conducted a lot of scientific experiments while in orbit around the moon. In total, there were around 7 scientific instruments. One was a 3-component magnetometer, one Pioneer gamma ray spectrometer, 5 gas discharge counters, 2 ion traps or charged particle traps to register ions and electrons in the solar wind and research for lunar ionosphere, a piezoelectric micrometeorite detector which is capable of recording particles heavier than 100 millionth of a gram, infrared detector consisting of 2 flat plates for measuring lunar thermal radiation, and a low energy X-ray photon counters for measuring fluorescent X-ray radiation on the lunar surface. So this is the launch vehicle called the Luna-10, in which the Luna-10 space probe was sent to the moon. And here the Molniya series of the rockets was inspired by the R7 ICBM. Now, R7 ICBM is one of the first ICBMs in human history to be developed. It can send in the IC usually this that ICBM was used to deploy nuclear warheads. As you know, it was the time of the Cold War, and with the new arms race, it was necessary for Soviet Union to design an ICBM, and it was designed by one of the pioneering scientists in Soviet Union called Sergei Korolev, and he designed the R7 ICBM, and this rocket, the Molniya rocket, was inspired by the R7 design, and so it was. And most of the lunar missions was done on Molniya rockets, and there were changes. There were changes in the Molniya rocket, uh, which was dubbed as the Molniya E6 for specialized lunar missions. And so, many of the lunar missions were successful. Some others weren't. Some were just launch failures, but at those times, in the pioneering age, these were one of the engineering masterpieces in the aerospace industry. The scientific objectives of the mission uh, commenced after the ceremonial duties are out of the way. And during the mission, due to a lack of data recording device on board the probe, the measurements and experiments were conducted only when the Luna-10 was in direct view of ground stations. The first scientific results from the Luna-10 mission were published in a press release of the official Soviet state media on April 10th, 1966. And here, the magnetic field of the moon, while the orbiter was around, while the orbiter was revolving around the moon, it showed a small variation of around 15 to 20 gammas, and these values were higher than that of the interplanetary space, away from all celestial bodies during a magnetically quiet period. And these weak readings should not be attributed to the moon's magnetic field, because the tail of the Earth's own magnetic field could cause that effect. So the lunar magnetic field was reported as varying between 17 and 35 gamma. The next set of scientific data that came from the Luna-10 was the chemical composition of the soil. And thanks to its gamma spectrometer, um, it showed natural gamma radiation emanating from the thorium, uranium, and their decay products, as well as from calcium 40 isotope in the lunar soil. And it allowed to determine the chemical composition of the lunar soil. But to conclude that most of the radioactivity of the lunar soil is lower than that of the granites on Earth, and it does not exceed that of the basalt rocks. And upon further analysis, it was confirmed that almost 90% of the lunar radiation is from a reaction with the cosmic rays, and only 10% of the radiation was from the soil's own natural radiation. And so one of the interesting pieces of data came from one of its scientific instruments, which measured the gravity of the moon while it was in orbit. And it was in order to check if there was any major gravitational anomalies um, on the moon, and it was found out that the anomalies of the moon's gravitational field are not great. But this conclusion was contradictory to the later observations from other space probes to the moon, because in the subsequent missions it was found out that so-called mass cons, called the local concentration of mass on the moon, and that affects the orbit of the satellites flying over it. So this is one of the few data which turn out to be which unfortunately turned out to be false later on in the future missions to the moon. And other preliminary data was from the meteorite detectors. So the meteor detectors showed a higher density of meteors in the lunar orbit than in interplanetary space. And moreover, the solar wind that recorded some increase in intensity of low energy particle fluxes, particularly electrons. And with that, these are one of the scientific data that was collected by the Luna-10 mission. And by June 3rd, 1966, the Luna-10 had exhausted its battery power, and on May and 3 days before that, on May 30th, it had ceased operation after a 56-day mission. So over and all, by June 3rd, it completed 60 days, 60 mission days, and it has collected a lot of data, which was later on beneficial, except the gravity data, which unfortunately turned out to be wrong. And during its end of the and at the end of the operation, the spacecraft was reported in a 378.8 by 985.3 kilometer orbit with an inclination of 72 degrees and orbital period of 2 hours 58 minutes and 3 seconds. In total, the Luna-10 covered 7 million kilometers and made 460 revolutions around the moon. The probe conducted 219 communication sessions with the ground control, and these included 74 trajectory measurement sessions, 17 long duration missions of radiation, near-lunar plasma concentration of micrometeoroids, and studies of moon's thermal radiation. At the end of April 1966, the 6 scientists and engineers at the top of the Luna-9 and Luna-10 project received the Lenin's Prize. It's considered one of the highest Soviet scientific honor. With that, we end our video. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and